Call to order the Committee of the Whole of October the 23rd, and begin by stating that in addition to the councillors that you see in the room, the members of council, we also have Councillor Terry Forster joining us from an undisclosed location.
I'm in Victoria for work this week.
There we go. I thought my introduction sounded better, but that's okay. There is an agenda in front of you. Recommendation is that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole for October 23rd be adopted. Councillors Cunningham and Niche, any additions or deletions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have two items on our agenda this evening. The first is the Prince Rupert Middle School Band for a Community Award presentation, followed by Chris Armstrong of the Leicester Center of the Arts. I want to tell everybody here that's present, when we've finished doing what you've come to see, you're more than free to leave the room. Nobody's feelings get hurt if you say that's all I was here for, and then you leave the room. That's okay. But if you want to stay and stay for the whole meeting, you're more than welcome to do that too. All right? Okay, with that, I would like to call forward. Well, let me read out what we're doing here. I have a plaque here. This is one of those things that you just love to do, right? This is a Civic Merit Award from the City of Prince Rupert. It's awarded to the Prince Rupert Middle School Concert and Jazz Band in appreciation for the distinction you have brought to our community through your outstanding achievements in music. And it's backdated to the summer when the award was first recommended and approved. But let me give you a little background here. Ms. Christy Tillman and her jazz and concert bands from the Prince Rupert Middle School have done all kinds of things, but this was specifically written in to the application, to the nomination. Traveled nearly 5,000 kilometers to represent Prince Rupert at the Musican Music Festival in Niagara Falls, Ontario in May of 2023. None of these students had ever been to a music festival before, but both bands were awarded gold. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And I can tell you, while you were there being celebrated there, your community back here was celebrating you. And thank you so much for what you did. So I'm going to call Ms. Tillman forward and the whole band if you want to come up. And why don't you come up on this side? Can you make your way up behind everybody? Come, let's get a picture together. Yeah, absolutely. Now, why don't you sit in the mayor's chair? Okay, pull that forward. Come on up. Come on right up. All the way. Some on this side. All the way, all the way, all the way.
You know, I'm like someone's favorite.
All right.
Get an extra, so.
I'm going to get down here. Okay, now you can't be, you got to get in. Come in here. How's that sound? Okay. I want to make sure that for photos, every child's face is clearly seen. All good? Parents? All good? Step forward. Listen to your mom and your dad, okay? If they say smile, smile. Yeah, come forward if you want. You don't have to do the thing from the back. Here, Christy, I'm going to give you that. Oh, there you go. Smile. Somebody's not smiling. All right. There you go. Have you ever been so popular in your life? Okay. So, Christy, I'm going to give these to you, and you can determine. There's a number of medals here. I don't know how many. And then we have pins. Where's the pins?
Yeah, I have the pins.
Oh, you already have the pins.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give you But there's these really cool medals. So, so as far as they go, they're yours to give away.
Thank you.
To the gang. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here, let me pull this over so that people can hear. We all know. Listen, I have to speak really, really positively about the Prince Rupert school system. It sometimes gets a rough ride, and I think it's absolutely ill-deserved. I raised 4 kids. They went through the public school system here, and their experience was incredible. We came from large urban center. We came from the Lower Mainland. We did question in moving to Rupert whether our kids would get as good an education as they could have got down south. They got a better education here, and it's not only what happened within the school classrooms, but it's all the other programs. It's the arts programs. It's the basketball programs. It's the music programs. It's the drama programs. It's the whole thing. You guys will never appreciate this till you leave. You really won't. And that's okay, right? That's okay. We want to give you an incredible experience, and you will have no way of judging that against any other incredible experience. And a huge part of how that happens is because there are teachers who see their job as a calling, not just a job. And it's a mission in life. And those are often the band teachers and the drama teachers and the sports coaches who just go above and beyond. And there is no possible way that this group of kids, as talented as they are, got all the way to Niagara Falls and won gold in 2 categories without an incredible amount of work from Christy and the folks that work with Christy to make this happen, parents and everybody else. Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Okay, don't get too used to my chair.
You're still in the chair now.
All right. The next item on the agenda is Mr. Chris Armstrong. Mr. Armstrong, would you come forward? I know you're familiar with it, but have a seat there in front of the pipe. Turn on the microphone and proceed.
All right. I was given instructions by your corporate administrator.
Excellent.
So I go to the PowerPoint and then the Zoom, or Zoom. Slideshow.
Thanks so much for coming, you guys. Thank you.
Okay. No, I didn't share the screen. Thank you, Rosa. Okay. Good evening, Mayor and councillors. Thank you so much for having me. As His Worship mentioned, my name is Chris Armstrong, the General Manager of the Leicester Centre of the Arts. It was actually around this time last year that I saw all you guys. Right before the debate for the municipal election, I gave you a tour of our beautiful facilities, so it's good to see you all again. As I'm sure you're aware, I'm still kind of new to the job, just like you. So I thought I just want to come say hi and really thank you for your continuing support, and then also tell you what we've been up to the last few months and also where we're going in the future. So just a few words about this beautiful facility that you see on our screen right now. It was built in 1987 at the cost of $3.5 million. I think that's a pretty good bargain. It is owned by the city, and you guys contract out to the Prince Rupert Performing Arts Centre Society to run the day-to-day operations. So I am an employee of that society, and it's kind of like an arm's length position. I'd like to think that you all agree that this is a tremendous community asset that we have in Prince Rupert. All right, the main reason we really get up in the morning is to create incredible experiences for our audience, just from the sheer joy of watching live performance. This is a screenshot taken by from a film that we did during the 35th anniversary gala. You can see the two guys in the front are particularly joyful about watching Triple Bypass on stage. So yeah, it was during the 35th anniversary gala. And I really think that your support is critical to allowing experiences like this to happen on an annual, monthly basis whenever we have stuff going on at the Lester Center. So thanks for that. Your support, in a way, in a secondary way, also allows us to keep ticket prices down. So I'm sure a lot of audience members would say thank you for that as well. We've had a lot of great shows over the past year. Just this weekend, we had 5440, one of the, I think, premier Canadian bands, for 2 nights. They love the place, like most performers do, and they were especially endeared by the hospitality here in Prince Rupert and the community as a whole. They really, really appreciated all that. So we've also had, as you see, it's kind of cut off, but Johnny Reid, he was here last September. Colin James was here in February. Those weren't Lester presentations, but again, without your support, we don't have the ability to bring those big acts to our stage. And we were very proud to stage Mamma Mia, the community musical, back in April. It was the first one we'd done since 2018, and it's really ratcheted up, I think, since the beginnings. Yes, and there was there's a few city employees in that production as well. So thank you to the city for just having the talented employees that you have. You don't have to take my word for it. There's a few testimonials here from people who performed in the Lester Center. The top one is the agent of a magician named Chris Funk, and he was here last October. He put on a great show. He called it a 5-star experience with the Lester Center. We take a great deal of pride in that. We had a band last month, the T. Buckley Trio. They're from Alberta, kind of like a bluegrass roots band. They said that the theater is a dream to perform in, a real hidden gem. And I point these two things out because this is what we keep on hearing from people who come in from out of town. In fact, the T. Buckley Trio loved the room so much that they just asked to stick around after sound check and just play in that room, to an empty room, because it sounded so beautiful. So yeah, I think we should all take pride in that. Also got some testimonials here from audiences, just kind of a sample. Again, variations on a theme. People saying it's a fantastic facility. They're nice about the staff and the volunteers, especially about how well they perform during the performances. Amazing venue, and also, of course, the quality of local talent that we have in our community, which I think we just saw right before I came on here. Hopefully we'll see them on stage for many years to come. In case you're wondering, Ticketor is our ticketing software. So that's where you buy your tickets from. Really, and in both cases with performers and in audiences, I believe you should personally take pride in this because it's your support that allows this to happen. In a way, they're thanking you in a way. These a little bit smaller than I want it to be, but this got kind of some statistics from the past season. We saw over 20,000 people come to 86 performances. Volunteer hours is highlighted. I looked around to see a comparison, but I do have a feeling that volunteer hours is dropping. I would like to think if I could get a hold of the stats from previous years, you would have seen more volunteer hours on there. And I'm sure that you've heard that from many other organizations around town. I mean, it's not unique to us, but just wanted to point that out. I have some economic impact here for both performers. So we bring them in, we put them up in a hotel, and then they hang out in town and go spend their money. And then, of course, audiences, if they come in from out of town for a show, they might stay in a hotel, and they're going to be spending their money at restaurants and stores as well. So $47,000 for performers, $237,000 for audience members for 2022, 2023. If you'd like to know how I came up with those numbers, I'm more than happy to share that. Maybe in the question and answer session. I do personally feel those are pretty conservative estimates, and I did that on purpose. But I think you can see that there is definitely an economic impact to our community with the Lester Center. We've been doing a lot of facility improvements over the last year. The main one was the green room. We actually made it green. It was orange before. So now it's green. It's great, and it's a beautiful room. Like performers are really impressed by the stage and the theater, and then they walk in the green room and they're even more impressed with that. So, yeah, all around, and that is huge. Thanks to the Rotary Club, they pretty much funded that whole renovation project. So really huge shout out to Rotary. We also have a new intercom system in the theater, which is pretty important because you have to communicate from the booth all the way down the stage. The sound system, so you can see some of the speakers in that picture. That was a very big investment that we did actually during COVID. The theater was shut down, but we found a way to get some money and create an even better sound. And again, performers that come in from out of town, they're very impressed with the sound console and with the speakers. They can't believe it's up here in this little community, this remote community that we all live in. There's lots of work to be done, especially in the building envelope, and I'm sure you're all aware of that. I am working closely with your facilities manager, who is great. Really like her, so we're having a really good time trying to figure out what to do and prioritizing what should be coming up next. And then really a cosmetic thing that we did, but is really, I think, embraced by the community, is we put up lights sort of just to shine on where it says Leicester Center of the Ice, and they're colored. Sometimes they switch colors. I have a lot of fun with it. And then we've also put some lights around the pillars in the lobby of the Leicester Center, sort of beautify the lobby and kind of create that sense of magic and wonder before we go into the theater. So we've been doing a lot of that on the side over the last year. So this season is well underway. We've already got 2 performances under our belt, and we've got lots more right into May. We've named our season Reboot, and I'm going to brag about my son because he's the one who came up with the design for that for Reboot. He didn't do the final design, but he came up with the premise. So it's a family affair at Leicester Center. And we're also right now in talks with some performers for the following season. So that would be 2024, 2025. And we have to continually look ahead because the schedules for performers they plan these things 3 or 4 years in advance. And the big one we're doing, the big future thing we're doing is replacing the theater seats, our Please Be Seated project, which, in fact, you guys endorsed in a council motion. So since I've been thanking you this whole time, I think it's appropriate to end on a thank you. Thank you so much for your support of our Please Be Seated project and for your continuing support of the Leicester Center in general. That's me, and that's my contact information. Call anytime. Come on over for a coffee if you like, and hope to see you in the seats.
How is the seat sale going?
Very good. So we've secured most of our funding from government agencies and a private source. And in fact, the community has donated over $30,000. So that's from local individuals and organizations. So that was incredible. Yeah.
Excellent.
So we're planning to rip them out and put them back in this coming summer.
Yeah. Do you want to take a moment to introduce your board members that are here?
Yeah, sure. Okay, we have Christy Mayer. She's actually the School District 52 representative on the board. We've got Tony Carlson. She's our secretary-treasurer. David Tran, he's a director, and Amy Dobson and Georgia Riddell. And then we also brought along some lovers of the arts, I suppose. Joanne Finley, who used to be on our board, and Larry Hope as well. Were you ever on the board, too? No, my wife was. Oh, yeah. So.
Excellent. Questions or comments from council? Councilor Randawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, like last year, I know we applied for the NDIT grant for the seat, and they turned down. So, do we have any plan to apply again this year?
Yes, we will definitely be applying to them, and I've been in discussion with them already. Yes.
Councilor Eadie.
Just as a disclosure, I'm also on the board.
Right. I forgot the most important one.
So I knew a little bit about what you were talking about, but I would like to just take a moment to tie together the 2 events that we've had here. The middle school people have left, but I remember when I was in grade 5, I decided that it was a good idea that I learned to play an instrument, and I ended up with a baritone in a band, which might not be the most glamorous instrument to play in a band, but it did have the effect of introducing me to music. And that turned into the guitar, which I've had a lifetime of joy with. And I would have said that to the kids themselves, that that start may lead to other places, and all those places are good places. And in the context of your presentation, it also leads to the affirmation on the part of the community of the importance of that growth and that experience, and we symbolize that, or we've captured that in the existence of the Lester Center. And I can't overstate how important I think it is to the community. I've shared in that pleasure on a number of occasions, but so many people in this community have walked on that stage and shown their stuff and grown as human beings because of it. So I'm very pleased to claim ownership of being a proud supporter of the facility and all of what it represents.
Well, thank you, Councillor.
Any other comments? Councillor Niche.
During Ms. Judge, they probably showed too much stuff, but I just thank you for your hard work on keeping this place going. And it is a challenge. It's a small town and a nice facility. So good luck and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Councillor.
Any other questions? Comments? I'll just point out something. I arrived in 1988. So 87, this facility had only just been constructed. And but people that were here during the construction, some of you would remember that. It was a very divisive time for the community because there was a competing idea that the Capitol Theatre should be renewed, and there was a tremendous history in the Capitol Theatre, and so people passionately fought for that, and it was such a strong feeling in the community that literally I knew people when I arrived here that for years refused to go to an event at the Lester Center because they felt it should have been the Capitol Theatre. And so given some of the current conversations we're having, I just can't help but remark that people in Prince Rupert are passionate about their ideas, right? And that's a good thing. But in the end, we coalesce around, I don't think there's anybody in the community today that doesn't believe that the Lester Center was a massive, significant advancement for this entire community. And it stands there today. So, Councillor Cunningham.
You often hear people say it's one of the nicest theaters in northern BC. And I don't think it's one of the nicest. I think it is the nicest. It's well run since you've taken over and that. It's had a past history of good managers. Yeah. So you're carrying on that tradition, Chris, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate the passion you're putting into it.
Well, thank you, Councillor. And I'll agree with you. It is the most beautiful facility in northern BC.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Worship.
With that, if there's no more comments from council, I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillors Cunningham and Skelton Morven, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. The meeting's adjourned, and we will. And like I said, you're more than welcome to stay. You're more than welcome to leave, whichever suits your interest at the moment. Are you going to talk about that pipe? Yeah. And with that, I will call to order the regular council meeting of October the 23rd. Again, I'll repeat that you see the members of council that are present here in the room, but also Councillor Forrester is joining us from Victoria, where she is for attending for work. And with that, there is an agenda in front of you. I would entertain a motion to adopt that agenda. Councillors Forrester and Councillors Randawa. Any additions or deletions? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak to any matter that's on the council agenda this evening? Given that we've got a pretty empty room, I won't belabor that point, and I'll move along. There are the items on the consent agenda, and I would entertain a motion to receive and act on those items. Councillor Cunningham and Councillor Skelton Morven. Yeah, I mean, there's some good things in there that I think are worth the public having a look at, but I'm not going to belabor them. There's a report there from the Director of Operations and Intergovernment Relations with regards to the status of various capital projects. There's a request for a letter of support for an NDIT grant from Community Futures, and there is a report from the BC Lottery Commission, corporation, with regards to the community impact reporting. I think it outlines about $680,000 was our share from the gaming revenue that came out of the various gaming that's done in the community. With that, if there's no other comments or questions, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have reports now, and we've got a placeholder for a verbal report from the Director of Operations and Intergovernment Relations with regards to the 4th Avenue West Pathway. Is there any further update, Director Pucci? Go ahead. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as it shows in the agenda there, we didn't get all of the information in time while I was writing the report, so I just have an update verbally for you. We have received reports from both the structural and geotechnical engineers. Under the geotech supervision, Empire Tree Services worked for approximately 5 days to remove the fallen trees and loose rock and debris. The works were completed on October 13th, the conclusion of those works. City crews went on site, seeded a lot of the exposed soils as recommended by the geotechnical engineer. Both structural and geotechnical engineers have now completed their final inspections after all of the debris was removed, and they recommend that the entire section of elevated wood, which is the creosote section, has to be removed, and then replace the rest of the area, which is the concrete sections, are all in good enough shape to continue and stay. We have to complete some cocoa matting, which is matting that has embedded seeds in it on some of the slopes so that we can have vegetation growth to hold the slope in place. We estimate that the remaining works just to sort of keep the site safe is approximately $60,000. Rebuilding the walkway to code at best estimate is around $150,000, maybe up to $200,000, and that would include additional lighting. So we can look at what the breakdown of that cost is once we look at those costs. Right now we've used approximately $36,000 of the $50,000 budget that was allotted for this program. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? I guess in a nutshell, what you're saying is, unless there's some sort of budgetary miracle here, or unless council cancels some other project, the funds don't exist in this budget year anyway to repair the walkway.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. We will be putting it forward for the 2024 budget for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. A motion to motion to receive the verbal report. Councillors Cunningham and Skelton Morven. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Next item is the report from the Director of Development Services with regards to an extension of development incentives. The recommendation is that Council extend the waiver of fees for residential rezoning, development permit, and building permit applications outside of the City Core that result in new units until the end of December 2024, effectively November 1st, 2023 through to December 31st, 2024, and that Council extend the waiver of fees for all development permits, building permits, and rezoning in the City Core from January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. Councillor Randawa, Councillor Adey, just to put that all in plain English, the previous council waived all those fees, rezoning, development permit, building permit fees, with the intention, if the result of that waiving those fees resulted in the construction of new housing units, and that all was set to expire. Some of it on November 1st, some of it on January 1st, and by this resolution, council is extending all of those for one more year. And I emphasize one more year because if you've got a project that you're thinking about, this is not an unlimited offer. This is an opportunity. It's meant to spur you on to take that on sooner rather than later. And are there any comments or questions from council? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from planning with regards to a development variance permit for 212 9th Avenue East. Recommendation that council proceed with statutory notification process for development variance permit number 2322 at 212 9th Avenue East. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Adey, Councillor Cunningham. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. We have a report from planning with regards to development variance permit at 1609 11th Avenue East that council proceed with statutory notification process for development variance permit 2319. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Niche. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We have bylaw, City of Prince Rupert Reserve Fund Amendment Bylaw number 3522 with a recommendation that council give fourth and final reading to the Reserve Fund Amendment Bylaw number 3522. Can I have a motion to that effect? Councillors Niche and Cunningham. Just again to try to put this into plain English, some time ago we received a grant from the provincial government through the Community Building something fund. Go ahead, Director Baumann.
Small communities. Small communities fund.
Small communities. Thank you very much. And so this is doing what's required under there in terms of setting this fund aside for future use, correct? Yes? Yes? Good. Thank you very much. All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. All right. And now we go to questions and comments from council. And I have a bit of a list myself, but I'll let you all go first. Any? Councillor Adey.
Thanks. I've got a couple of things. They're linked by a central theme, and the central theme is pedestrian and traffic safety. As you'd have to be living under a rock to miss the fact that there's been a community discussion around McBride and 2nd Avenue. But what I think has been useful about it, without going there, is that it's produced a lot of discussion about other places and ways in which we need to address particularly pedestrian safety. So I have a couple of comments around that based on things that people have said to me. First, on Five Corners, I'd never really thought about it before, but somebody pointed out to me that when you go from 3rd Avenue through to 2nd Avenue, there is a yield sign there that is actually meant to affect traffic not going through there, but down the rampway on the right-hand side from 2nd Avenue. So there's, as a small point, there is an opportunity there, I think, to make that safer, because it is not clear who is supposed to yield to who there. So that was pointed out to me by somebody. Another person has sent me a small video of something they have in Port Hardy with their stop signs. It's a flashing sign that is activated by solar power, and I'm informed reliably that solar power is a little more problematic here than it might be in Port Hardy. But the effect of it is that it reinforces the idea that there's a stop sign there, and can be one of those small things that might help in terms of pedestrian safety, and maybe we could explore that. And the other point in terms of problem areas was 2nd Avenue and 6th Street. The mayor and I alongside the RCMP and ICBC, participated in an hour or so of handing out reflective tags that you can put on your sleeve. It's an ICBC initiative, and in conversation with the RCMP officers, when we began that, I said, well, where would be the most effective place for us to be? And the RCMP officers didn't hesitate to say, well, the crosswalk by Chevron on 6th Street there is a crosswalk that we really need to think about. How can we make that safer? How can we either control it or make it safer? So I'd like to just add one more, and that is the lack of any crosswalk all the way from Five Corners down to the ferry terminal. And I know in particular where the grocery store is there, and the Anchor Inn, there may be an opportunity there. So what I'd like to say about all of that is that I think there's the conversation that's been sparked by the roundabout has highlighted some of the ways in which we might be able to get some fairly inexpensive wins in terms of reinforcing safety at other points in the city, and I would like to think that we would have a look at doing that. My last point on that is a question, and that was raised again by somebody concerned about the speed at which people are driving up a particular residential street. And so the question was, what would be the process whereby a community group or a neighborhood group of people who are interested in doing so could advocate for a reduced speed limit on any given section of road? So I'm offering that as a question through the mayor. So how do you get from, say, 50 kilometers an hour to 30 kilometers an hour if a neighborhood is interested in pursuing it?
Director Pucci, I'm going to turn that whole bundle over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through the mayor, I've written down your concerns around pedestrian safety and those particular spots. These are all along the Ministry of Transportation corridor, so they can all be brought up with the Ministry of Transportation. We have regular meetings with them. We know of other areas in town that we can also look at doing better pedestrian safety. We also have some plans and reports on that, so we've been slowly chipping away at those. So I will take that away, and I can work with the Ministry of Highways on looking at those concerns. With the speed, our traffic bylaw states that a resolution of council can adjust speed limits within highways associated with the community. Obviously not MOTI highways, but our highways, which are roadways. I would like the opportunity just to maybe come back with a consent memo just to confirm the process and bring it forward. But within the traffic bylaw, it does say by resolution, council may adjust speed limits. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Cunningham.
On the issue of reflectors, I was out that day too, and what I brought up, and I'm hoping it comes to fruition, is giving those reflectors out at Halloween Fest at the Civic Center. I mentioned that kids on Halloween night are running around in costumes and that, and some are dark, some aren't. But if we actually get young kids wearing reflectors, maybe the adults will start wearing them too. I think that would be a good place to start putting those reflectors, because I noticed a lot of people walking by out, I don't need it. Yeah. I was quite surprised actually at some of the people. As far as the Motor Vehicle Act states, not just about motor vehicles, but pedestrians too. And it says a pedestrian's not supposed to leave the curb until it's safe. And that doesn't mean walking down by the theater, walking right out on your phone or with headphones and that on. People should be looking. I've observed lots of people walking into our crosswalks and not looking either way. I would have got my butt kicked severely by my parents if I ever did that when they were around. But again, that's something. A while ago, one of the councillors brought up e-bikes on sidewalks. Well, no bikes are supposed to be on the sidewalk, never mind e-bikes. And what I've been noticing lately is more and more e-bikes, butt bikes, and now we have electric scooters. And I stepped out of a shop the other day and a scooter went flying by. The girl on it wasn't wearing a helmet and she was going faster than any cars on 3rd Avenue. So I don't know who has to enforce that bylaw, but I think we should start doing it before there's a serious accident, because I've seen some close calls already with bikes on sidewalks and scooters, as well as people not wearing helmets, and we do have a bylaw for helmets. And you talk to any ER doctor about not wearing a helmet, and they shudder when they see the head injuries in ER and that from, people have been killed falling off a bike, never mind just injured. So I think these are all things that should be noted as far as safety goes for pedestrians and that.
Fair enough. Councillor Randawa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Eddy. Like some streets need to be slowed down, some speed limit. So I can see like one on Atlan Avenue, about 1800 block Atlan,
Yep.
to 1500 block Atlan.
Yep.
The speed limit they put 30 over there maximum.
Yep.
So I think we can see how they did,
Yep.
and we can go from there.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And the other, in terms of traffic study and design, is what people refer to, what is referred to as traffic calming devices. They're if you, it's a funny thing, but if you actually narrow things in, people automatically slow down, right? And if you go into certain neighborhoods in Vancouver and Langley and wherever, and I'm not trying to push a particular cause here, but where small roundabouts are done, it again forces can't believe I went there, did you? But it forces people to slow down as they go around those, and so all of when you do curb bump outs, right? So there's lots of different ways. One of them is to actually, have an enforceable speed limit, but there's design considerations that can be done also to help vehicles slow down for sure. Any other comments? Councillor Forster.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to echo my council colleagues' comments on safety. This is an opportunity we can take to look hard at some of the things we've done. But the comments I actually wanted to make were recognition of the feast and the pole raising that took place this past weekend. A lot of work was done by a few of our community members, Symbia Barnaby in particular. And it was really quite amazing to see so many different groups in our community come together to help uplift the people that were organizing it, to support one another. And I just wanted to give a shout out to everyone that was involved, because it was a lot of work and it was something our community should be proud of, that we have been chosen to have one of the polls. It's a sad reason why we have to have the polls, and it's something that deserves attention.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? Councillor Skelton-Morvan.
I think I'll just add to that notion and just thank all of the organizers and volunteers that came out, especially those that came out last minute to show up and bring everything together. And I actually, when the mayor was, Mr. Mayor, when you were talking about traffic calming things, I was almost imagining some audio kind of waterfalls or something, that meditative, very progressive urban city center kind of stuff. But aside from that, but no, just I want to echo Councillor Forster's notions on just the gratitude for the volunteers and everyone that showed up to make that possible.
Great. Councillor Cunningham.
On that note, it was actually a very moving ceremony. I was quite taken back by some of the speeches and that were out there, and I encourage anyone. I went back out on Sunday just to look at the pole, and it's a beautiful pole, and it's adding to that. The one thing I'd like to see, and I don't know if we can do it or not, is actually have a plaque there explaining what it represents. Yeah. Because I think that would be instrumental in tourism and things like that, seeing that and then realizing it's there for the MMIW. It's not just a pole that represents something that's very important.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The artist, explained the pole, and that was powerful, and I think it would be helpful to everybody that goes in there. I too went out there. I think it's going to be a place that, and while I was there, people were coming. The Eagle Down, you went out as well? Yeah. The Eagle Down is still stuck on the cedar. The Eagle Down from the ceremony. Um, it's a pretty magical spot, you know, like when Symbia first approached me in terms of working with the city to find a location. You know, there were a number of places along the highway and closer into town, and staff very quickly actually led us to that spot, and I don't think we could have ended up in a better spot. I mean, when you the other thing I think has to be added, quite frankly, are some benches because it's just it's a place you want to go sit, quite frankly, with the water in the background and that incredible pole. I want to acknowledge you, Councillor Skelton Morvan, for the work that you did on that. I was initially contacted by Symbia. I asked Councillor Skelton Morvan if he would attend a meeting on my behalf. I wasn't able to go, and he went, but then he did a whole lot more than that. He jumped in with both feet, became actively part of the organizers on the morning of the pole raising. I texted him to say, would you like a ride out? We're heading out. Actually, it was the night before. And he said, well, actually, I'm going to be at the Civic Center starting at 4 a.m. Getting ready for the day. And he did come out to the site, but then he was back. And the whole time that I'm sitting and enjoying the company of others and the meal, Councillor Skelton Morvan was serving people and moving chairs and just actively involved in that. And so on behalf of your colleagues here on council, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So a couple other things that just of interest, you know, much of it covered. We talked about this is all since the last time we met, right? We had the roundabout announcement. We had the ICBC giving away those reflectors. We had the Laqualams opening of the 70 unit groundbreaking, right? And the whole feast that followed there. Myself and Mayor Bjorndal were guests out at Trigon and escorted around, shown what, you know, all the things they're working on out there. I attended the Long Service Award ceremony here for employees that, you know, honestly, richly deserve that attention. And I had an opportunity to thank them for their service. And then in the same day, that afternoon, our firefighters went to a call where they were able to save 2 lives. And our public works employees went to that event that took place up on Montreal Circle and worked their buns off all night long and got water back on with the help of contractors. You know, so in the afternoon I'm thanking them, or at lunchtime I'm thanking them, and before the day's out, they've done more heroic service. We work with a great group of people here, and they deserve to be recognized. Councillor Skelton Morvan and I attended Nation to Nation for one day in Terrace. There was the memorial for Brent at NP. We had a Zoom call with Kang Zhou in China, reestablishing friendly relations with them, and that was an interesting experience that may indeed lead to some exchanges back and forth. And then we had the pole raising. That's a very busy 2-week period. And finally, I sat in on a call where the new short-term rental legislation was explained. And it may have small bylaw adjustments that come to make sure that we're in alignment with that. But by and large, it's just a piece of provincial legislation that aims to enforce and help us enforce the bylaws that we already have in place. And the general crux of it is, if you're a community that's experiencing tight vacancy, then these controls will come into place. And these controls will say you may only do short-term rental in your own principal residence or in a suite that's part of that principal residence. And then attached to that, there's all kinds of reporting, and everybody operating a short-term rental must have a business license in the municipality in which they're doing business. Any form of advertising that unit must have the business license number on that advertising. So whether you're going through Airbnb or any one of the many sites, or just doing it on Kijiji, that must be there. It will lead eventually to a provincial registry where all of those agencies must then report to the province, who's doing what within what community, and that information will be shared with the municipality so that they can then enforce that bylaw. Again, this is all aimed at communities that are experiencing tight vacancies, right? If vacancies loosen up, then the community is no longer under that specific legislation. And there are heavy fines, $3,000 a day per violation, and so substantial. So given that housing is a major issue, and the constraint on housing is a major issue in our community, it's something certainly that I welcome. I think it's the right balance, my own personal view. I think that one of the things that young families might need when they're buying their first home is the ability to do short-term rentals in a suite or that sort of thing, and so it accommodates that. If you're going away for a particular point in the year, you can do a short-term rental in your own personal residence, right? But the ability for people to acquire multiple properties and basically run ghost hotels at the expense of local residents is going to be restricted. And that's all I have for you. I think that's enough. Unless there's any other questions or comments, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Skelton Morgan, Councillor Cunningham, all in favor? Any opposed? It is carried. Thank you, Councillor Forrester. Enjoy your evening.